it does, more and more voices will join Stein's.
We smashed the spire and its legs crawled out.
Military historian Victor Davis Hansen says after coalition forces decimated al-Qaeda's leadership in Afghanistan, a new kind of Islamic terrorism emerged. He calls this new enemy al-Qaedism. Al-Qaedism, what do you mean by it?
Well, Al-Qaedism means it's a spirit or a way of thinking that doesn't have to be connected directly with Al-Qaeda.
Is it a movement per se?
They're part of an ideology of grievance, of very vague complaints about the way they perceive the Western world treats them. Al-Qaedism is dangerous because anybody at any time can plug into the ideology, the hatred, the venom.
Steve Emerson, author of several books on terrorism, goes one step further. He believes these isolated strikes are actually part of bin Laden's plan. Emerson calls it Al-Qaeda 2.0.
Al-Qaeda 2.0 is really the next generation of Al-Qaeda-inspired fighters, jihadists, who aren't directly controlled by bin Laden. I think Al-Qaeda is depending today upon the emergence, spontaneous emergence of these jihadist cells that are not tethered to the leadership of Al-Qaeda by either telephone or email.
We are really in the midst of a war of ideas.
Waleed Faris of the Foundation for the Defense of Democracies has studied jihadist movements worldwide. He warns that this is not about the last bin Laden, but the next one.
Osama bin Laden is the Lord, but he doesn't possess the rings. The rings are the ideology. There will be other Osama bin Ladens that will come after him. And
could the next bin Laden even come from America? Jihad USA returns after the break. Since 9/11, there have been more than a few thwarted plots and bizarre attacks here in America, planned or perpetrated by radical Muslims. They're often back-page news because the bad guys aren't members of an international terror group. That is surely a relief to most Americans, but should it be? September 2002, Lackawanna, New York, the Buffalo Six.
Buffalo Six were a bunch of young men who, in April of 2001, went to train in Afghanistan directly in Osama bin Laden's terror training camps. They had a mission that if they were to be activated, they were to carry out jihad.
All six were convicted on terrorism charges. October 2002, Portland, Oregon, the Portland Six.
In this case, American citizens, after September 11th, attempted to travel to Afghanistan to take up arms against the United States.
They trained in the United States and ultimately were convicted of material support to terrorism.
June 2003, Northern Virginia, the paintball jihad case. 11 men, converts to Islam, are indicted on charges of attempting to engage in holy war against the U.S.
10 miles from Capitol Hill, American citizens met, plotted, and recruited for violent jihad.
9 of the 11 men were convicted. October 2003, Lodi, California. Hamid Hayat, an American citizen, leaves his home here to attend a jihadi training camp in Pakistan. Later, Hayat admitted to the FBI he actually attended the camp twice. He was ultimately convicted of providing material support to terrorists. October 1st, 2005, Norman, Oklahoma. Outside a packed University of Oklahoma football stadium, Joel Henricks, with a bomb attached to his body, blows himself up. He did so after failing to get inside.
That's a suicide bombing in the United States. Then you start hearing, oh, and he attends this mosque. So you think, hey, hang on a minute, he's a Muslim suicide bomber. Why isn't the story being presented in those terms?
March 3rd, 2006, Chapel Hill, North Carolina. Mohammed Reza Taheri Azar, an Iranian-born American, drives an SUV into a crowd of people at the University of North Carolina. Azar called 911 immediately after the incident.
Can you tell me why you did this?
Really, it's to punish the government of the United States for their actions around the world.
Taheri Azar pleaded not guilty and is awaiting trial on charges that include attempted murder. March 23rd, 2006, Atlanta, Georgia. Syed Harris Ahmed, a Georgia Tech student, and Ehsanul Islam Siddiqui are arrested for planning to attack civilian and government targets in both Atlanta and Washington, D.C.
The Georgia Tech guys have in fact got video of themselves going and looking at the Pentagon, and you can hear them saying to each other, this is where our brothers struck at the heart of the Pentagon, and the other guy says, Allahu Akbar, God is great.
Ahmed and Siddiqui were indicted on charges of material support of terrorism and await trial. June 2006, Miami, Florida.
The Miami 7.
Miami 7 were introduced by an informant to someone they thought was a representative of bin Laden, and they pledged allegiance to him in carrying out acts of terror.
Their plans included blowing up Chicago's Sears Tower. It's a controversial case that's resulted in an acquittal for one suspect and a retrial for the others. More on that later. July 28, 2006, Seattle, Washington.
Once inside, he immediately began firing at people.
Naveed Haq, an American Muslim of Pakistani descent, goes on a shooting spree at a Seattle Jewish center, killing a woman and wounding several others. After his arrest, Haq told police, quote, "This is about the Jews and what they are doing. The Jews are running the country." Haq's murder trial has just begun. August 29, 2006, San Francisco, California. Omid Aziz Popal, in his SUV, runs down 19 pedestrians, killing one, during a rampage that ends up in front of another Jewish community center.
He aimed at people in the crosswalks.
Witnesses say Popal declared, "I'm a terrorist. I don't care." Popal is expected to stand trial for murder and assault later this year. December 6, 2006, Rockford, Illinois. Derek Sharif is arrested for planning to bomb a mall during the holiday rush with grenades stashed in garbage cans. In a video, which the government would not release to Fox News, he is seen warning the enemies of Islam that the time for jihad is now. Prosecutor Patrick Fitzgerald underscored that this was a homegrown threat.
If he were being directed from overseas and financed by overseas, he wouldn't be trading in 2 stereo speakers to pay for the grenades.
Sharif pled guilty to attempting to use a weapon of mass destruction. May 7, 2007, Fort Dix, New Jersey. 6 foreign-born men, all living in the U.S., though only one a citizen, are arrested for plotting an attack on the U.S. Army's Fort Dix military base.
The philosophy that supports and encourages jihad around the world against Americans came to live here in New Jersey.
One of the men pleaded guilty to a weapons conspiracy charge, while the others await trial on charges of conspiring to kill U.S. soldiers. August 4th, 2007, Goose Creek, South Carolina. Yusuf Megahead and Ahmed Mohammed, Egyptians attending college in Florida, are stopped speeding in South Carolina, 7 miles from a Navy base. In their trunk, cops say they find PVC piping stuffed with explosive material, a gas canister, a fuse, a drill, and bullets. Mohammed also allegedly made and posted an internet video on how to transform a remote-controlled toy into a bomb detonator to help others attack U.S. troops overseas. Both men are charged with illegally transporting explosives. Mohammed is also charged with assisting terrorists. They deny the charges. Their trial is set for April. September 8, 2007, Dearborn, Michigan. Hussein Zorkat, a third-year medical student from Lebanon, is arrested in a park with camouflage paint on his face and a loaded AK-47 in his hands. That day, he posted on his website, shown here, the start of my personal jihad in the U.S. Zorkat will be in court for a preliminary hearing on weapons charges in April.